Gets ready for Hurricane Gloria. We'll have a live Star 5 report. While North Carolina's Emergency Management Office closely monitors the storm's progress.
The onset of new pornography laws sends confusing signals to North Carolina retailers. We'll have a special assignment report tonight.
And we'll reacquaint you with one special teenager who's looking for a special home.
I'm Adele Arakawa.
I'm Charlie Gaddy. The news is next on Action News 5.
Designs that work are designs that last, and a Delta washerless faucet lasts and lasts and lasts. Delta faucet, we're first because we last.
Out here, a man like me is rough on his truck. I can wear one out in no time. But here's something that won't wear out. This rugged toolbox from Lowe's. It won't bend, crack, or rust, and it's just $79.99. Let me tell you something. When I got a path to clear, this 14-inch gas-powered McCulloch chainsaw can take the punishment, and it's only 99 bucks. So do like I did and cut a path to Lowe's. With products like these at Lowe's special prices, you just can't lose.
We are the baddest bugs in town. We love to sneak around. We love to come into your house and drive you crazy. We are the baddest bugs in town.
No matter how bad the bugs, we'll make your problems go away. Because nobody's better at stopping bugs scientifically than Terminix. Terminix. No more bugs, no more worries.
Wired for weather on WRAL-TV 5. From WRAL-TV, this is Action News 5.
Good evening. I'm Adele Arakawa.
And I'm Charlie Gaddy. At this hour, the entire coast of North Carolina is under a hurricane watch. State officials are urging a voluntary evacuation of Ocracoke and Portsmouth Islands. Authorities say other areas may need to be evacuated later tonight or early tomorrow. Forecasters recommend that all preparations to protect property be completed by sunset. Packing winds of 150 miles an hour, Hurricane Gloria is now 575 miles south-southeast of Hatteras.
Forecasters say gale-force winds may whip the coast by early tomorrow afternoon, with strong northeasterly winds developing on the Outer Banks tonight. We have a series of reports from the coast tonight, the first from Fred Taylor at Nags Head.
Flags fly high above the Coast Guard station at Ocracoke, while tourists and residents with their cars, boats, and campers line up to hitch a ferry ride to the mainland. Because when a hurricane is coming and the ferry's the only way off the island, you don't fool around. For James and Hazel Bennett from Walnut Cove near Winston-Salem, that means grab a place in line. Then while you wait, tie up your tackle and cover your boat.
Well, it's best to go early if you can. Okay. All right. It looks like a real bad storm coming.
Oh, I'm happy to get gone. I think it's the thing to do.
When they post hurricane warnings on Ocracoke, the people make a beeline for the mainland for the simple reason history could possibly repeat itself. In the 1800s, a hurricane plowed through, opening a channel that separates Ocracoke from the mainland. And when you live and play on the Outer Banks, you never underestimate an approaching hurricane.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been through a couple where I live at Topsail Beach, and when they tell you to go, the best thing to do is go ahead and leave.
We recommend evacuation of Ocracoke Island today.
The order to evacuate meant steady lines at the only gas station on the island. For the Calvettis from Pennsylvania, this was deja vu.
Last year at this time, it was about 2 weeks prior, we came down and Hurricane Diane evacuated us, and we got down yesterday and we have to leave today.
Running from storms is a way of life for the island's permanent residents. Rangers with the National Park Service closed roads and boarded up an island campground. From Ocracoke to the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse and other points along the Outer Banks, it's a day to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. We have Fred Taylor now, who is in the Nags Head area. And Fred, we appreciate that report. What is the general mood of the people down there as you assess it at this hour?
Well, Charlie, right now, there is not a lot of activity here on Nags Head. Folks are waiting till morning to hear more from the police department. Spokesman for the Nags Head Police Department told me a few moments ago there will be no decision on evacuation of this area till in the morning. However, as we reported just a few minutes ago, they're already evacuating Ocracoke Island, and they've already evacuated Hatteras Island. So right now, it's just a period of wait and see.
Fred, we noticed you went to several locations on the Outer Banks. Can you tell us, did you get a feel for the mood a little further inland?
Well, further inland, especially around here at Nags Head, they're going to wait and see what the storm does. Now, throughout the day, we've heard some periodic hammering of nails as a few stores are starting to board up. But for the most part, most of the folks have not really done anything at this moment. We see some cars that are leaving the island, but not a great mass exodus that you would expect with an approaching hurricane of this size.
Fred, we understood from here that they were allowing only the residents there, for instance, on Ocracoke, to use the ferries at this time and not letting visitors come in there. Is that true?
That's right, Charlie. About midday, they cut off the ferry coming into Ocracoke from the mainland, allowing only local residents to get back on the island, close up whatever they have to do, and then get back off. However, the tourists and everyone who is on the island can still get off the island. It's just only the residents are allowed back on the island at this point.
And Fred, I suppose as it gets rougher, there is a time when the ferry just has to stop running too.
That's right. That's another major concern for getting off Ocracoke and Hatteras Island early in the day, because when the winds reach a certain force, then the ferries can no longer operate. So when the only link between the island and the mainland is a ferry and it's not running, you're in a bunch of trouble.
Okay. Fred, thank you very much for your live report from the coast. Now, for a look at where the hurricane is and the latest information on it, we're going over to Bob DeBardelaben in our Weather Center. Bob?
Well, Charlie, there are a couple of things that we want to talk about. One, it is an extremely dangerous storm, and if you're going to the coast, don't, unless you're a property owner. And if you're a property owner and you're concerned about your property owner, we suggest you go now, tonight. Don't wait till tomorrow. Go now, secure your property, and then turn around and come on back. And let's take a look. Hurricane Gloria, these are the late coordinates at 6 o'clock this evening, 27.5 north, 73.5 west. This puts it about 550 miles south-southeast of Hatteras. Now, the interesting thing is that Gloria is still moving in a northwesterly direction. It still has not turned northward like we had anticipated earlier in the day or last night at the time. Now, the pressure has risen somewhat, 2764, but the winds are still 150 miles an hour. And because the storm is still moving in a northwesterly direction, the Hurricane Service now has issued Hurricane Watch all the way from Edisto Beach, which is just south of Charleston, South Carolina, all the way up to Cape Henry, Virginia, at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. We think now the storm will reach, provided it continues its present course, will reach the North Carolina coast sometime late tomorrow night. We're still not sure, and we're not even about to say where, Charlie, because there's too much at stake. But anyhow, there is the watch area, and we're just telling folks that if you've got some property there, go ahead and take precautions on it, boats and so forth, and then turn around and come on back home. We'll take a look at all the other information about Gloria, including some safety tips and our local forecast later on in the news. Charlie?
Thank you very much, Bob. And as you mentioned, and as your map showed there, other states on the eastern seaboard are preparing for the possibility of a landfall from Hurricane Gloria, just as we are. Our neighbors in South Carolina are watching and working. Let's go to reporter Kevin Rosen for a live report now. And Kevin is in the Myrtle Beach area. Kevin, what can you tell us about what you've observed since you've been there?
Well, Charlie, since we've been here this morning, the chances of Hurricane Gloria hitting the Myrtle Beach area has increased. So people here are keeping a very close eye on this hurricane. We talked to several residents today who say they're not ready to move yet. They're still going about their daily business, but they're keeping hourly tabs on radio reports to see just what Gloria will do. We also talked to civil defense officials here in Myrtle Beach, and they are standing by and ready to move. They have 26 shelters that are ready just in case Gloria may come this way. And with the strength of Gloria packing winds at some 150 miles an hour, you know what kind of damage it could do in this area of the South Carolina coast with these tall buildings and houses built so close to the shoreline.
Speaking of those houses, Kevin, what about preparations to board up and taking care of property along the coastline? Have you seen any of that?
Adele, we went up and down the coast here in Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach all day today talking to residents. None of them have been taking any precautions yet, but every one of them said that they're ready and waiting just to see what Gloria will do, and they're ready to move if they have to.
All right, Kevin, thank you. As soon as forecasters warned that Hurricane Gloria could hit the North Carolina coast, the wheels were set in motion for the state's emergency plan, a plan that's been through trial by fire with Hurricane Diana a year ago. Tim Kent reports.
1 year ago, Hurricane Diana aimed its force at the Carolina coastline. When the storm finally did hit land near Wilmington, the damage was minimal. But emergency crews received a workout that could come in handy during the next few days.
The hurricane plan that we have online worked very well during Diana. Each of the state agencies and the social services agencies like Red Cross, Salvation Army know what that plan is, and they know what their specific role is.
However, Diana was a mere pipsqueak compared to the potential fury of Gloria. Diana rated only a 2 on a scale of 5. Gloria is bordering on maximum strength.
These high points here, right in here, are going to be flooded too.
At mid-morning today, the wheels started to roll on the state's emergency plan for Gloria. Public safety, transportation, and health officials working together to protect the coastline, but more importantly, its residents. It all takes place in the basement of a state office building in Raleigh.
From all over the state, help is now on the way to staff this emergency headquarters, serving as the nerve center for the worst possible scenario.
Flashback to 1954. Hurricane Hazel unleashed a direct hit between Myrtle Beach and Wilmington, causing death and destruction. But despite Hazel's devastating power, Gloria could be worse. So depending on the storm's path, these people will implement an evacuation plan as necessary, moving people from the beaches to emergency centers. In Raleigh, Tim Kent, Action News 5.
As you might expect, the National Hurricane Center is buzzing with activity tonight, tracking Gloria's path. Dr. Neil Frank will join us from Miami later with an update.
And just ahead, a controversy spawns a lawsuit, and new laws will tell you what it all means to you when we come back in a moment.
What makes BB&T different from any other bank?
Quality, it's an attitude, being the best you can be.
At BB&T, we value things money can't buy. Things like commitment, integrity, performance. So come see why some of the best things about BB&T have no limits, penalties, or federal regulations.
BB&T, it's more than a bank. It's an attitude.
Like going around with me?
And the awesome ZX. Nissan dealers are making sports car deals like crazy.
Anything popular and beautiful is expensive.
Wrong. It's Nissan's last chance sell-out.
In September?
They're going for their all-time sales record, but their year ends September 30th. That day, they want their lots clear. With that and these, everyone can afford a ZX, a 200SX,
or Pulsar Sport, but before September 30th.
Car buying doesn't get any better than this.
Oh, don't miss out.
Go for it at your North Carolina Nissan dealer.
My wife, Robin, works hard at staying in shape. What seems to come easy for her is great-looking skin. That's why Robin's my #1 Ivory girl.
Healthy-looking skin doesn't just happen. You have to treat it right, and Ivory really helps. I've tried other soaps, but they can leave deodorants or heavy perfumes on you. Ivory cleans gently, naturally. Sure, I eat right and exercise, but when I look in the mirror, I think, Ivory, you're doing okay.
Healthy-looking skin. Ivory can help you have it, too.
Ivory, it's just part of me.
Tonight on PM Magazine, we'll visit with Tom Selleck and find out why he's taking his show, Magnum P.I., on the road to London.
Plus, we're spending this entire week in the beautiful North Carolina mountains, and we're going to show you some great places to visit, like the Swinging Bridge here on Grandfather Mountain.
Also, we'll highlight some unique country inns. It all comes up tonight on PM Magazine. Hi, I'm Susan Darlene.
And I'm Tom McNamara. Be sure to join us tonight for PM Magazine, coming up at 7:30, all right here on WRAL-TV 5.
After talking with the emergency preparedness team here in Raleigh, reporter Tim Kent headed for the North Carolina coast.
That's right. We sent him to the Morehead City area to see how the folks down there are preparing for the possibility of the storm, and he joins us now with a live report. And Tim, what have you found out?
Charlie, as no doubt you can see behind me, the surf is already picking up at a pretty good clip here at Atlantic Beach, and we understand that a lot of local people here have already voluntarily evacuated. The Atlantic City Police and the City Hall are meeting right now to decide what kind of immediate action they're going to take. According to the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, there is a 20% chance that Hurricane Gloria will pass within 65 miles of Atlantic Beach, and at this stage of the game, more than 24 hours away, that's an unusually high possibility. One reason that we're here at Atlantic Beach is simply for logistical reasons. Because the hurricane watch has been issued for such an extraordinarily large area along the Carolina coastline, all the way from Norfolk, Virginia, all the way down to Charleston, we're just going to wait here and see which way the storm goes so that we might be able to follow its path. Now, while evacuation is not a major concern here at Atlantic Beach, it is at two of the isolated islands on the Outer Banks, specifically Ocracoke and Portsmouth, which are accessible only by ferry boat. I spoke to an official today for the State Office for Emergency Management, and he told me that those two islands would need at least 24 to 30 hours to do a complete evacuation. So obviously we're getting close to that time frame, and that's a major concern right now.
All right, Tim, you mentioned there were a few voluntary evacuations going on there right now. Anyone who's been down to that area knows there are traffic problems often with the drawbridge over to Atlantic Beach. How has that been today?
That's right. I had to wait about 30 minutes to cross the drawbridge this afternoon. It is high traffic. It looks like a lot of people are voluntarily leaving, and it seems that down at the police department, people are being issued pink slips, which will enable them to go back and forth between the island to get some of their worldly possessions in case the storm decides to hit here at Atlantic Beach.
Tim, there's another aspect of that particular area. That's a big boating center, not only for the commercial fishermen, but a lot of people have pleasure boats down there. A lot of sailors sail out of there, and I wonder if you've had time to assess how people are doing securing their equipment in that regard.
You're absolutely right, Charlie. We understand there's a possibility of a storm surge of 15 to 18 feet wherever this storm does decide to hit landfall, and that causes a big problem potentially here at Morehead City and Beaufort because of the large number of boats that you mentioned. And what they're doing is urging all of the boat owners to take the appropriate action to tie their boats up with the proper amount of length of rope, and they want people to do that as quickly as possible so that they don't have to do that tomorrow if and when the storm does hit.
Tim, thank you very much
Tim.
for your report.
In other news tonight, among the many new laws going into effect October 1st, there's probably none more controversial than North Carolina's new pornography law. Reporter Rick Williams is here to tell us now that already the law is being challenged in court.
That's right. You know, even before the law was passed by the General Assembly in July, it was controversial then. But come Tuesday, all adult magazines from Playboy to Penthouse will have to go under the counter wherever they're being sold. No longer can they be in public display. But some bookstore owners and operators throughout the state are trying to keep the law from going into effect by proving in court that the new law is unconstitutional.
The camera's eye on Wilmington Street, one of several adult bookstores and movie theaters in North Carolina that could close down once the new pornography law goes into effect. But the owners and operators of adult stores throughout the state have filed a federal lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the new law. According to the suit, North Carolina's new pornography law will have a detrimental and chilling effect upon the exercise of the First Amendment.
Under the old pornography law, a court decided whether or not the merchandise sold inside this bookstore was obscene only before a case could be prosecuted. Under the new law, there are no preliminary hearings, and state officials say that will make criminal convictions come easier and faster.
And Assistant Attorney General Tom Zico, who helped draft the new law, says punishing the distributors of sexually explicit material and freedom of expression are two completely different things.
The best analogy is that obscene material is like drugs. It's illegal to sell under any circumstances, illegal to disseminate under any circumstances. So if they're dealing in obscene material, then there is no First Amendment question raised.
But while bookstore operators and owners would not comment on camera, many say because obscenity is only in the eye of the beholder, the new law will produce nothing short of a witch hunt against adult stores and adult theaters.
Now, according to the new law, any publication that has explicit nudity or sexual activity is considered harmful to minors and therefore obscene. And it's these types of magazines and books that are at the center of the controversy, which Adele may or may not be resolved at a federal hearing come Monday.
Rick, what about the concerns by store owners and operators that the new law will put them out of business?
Well, we talked to some of the owners today, and they said people don't like coming in asking for their favorite brands, their favorite magazines, and so it could drive business away in that respect.
What about people who buy the material? Do they come under any part of the law at all?
Well, Charlie, under the law, the recipients cannot be prosecuted, only the distributors and the disseminators of such information. However, it will be interesting to see how the law will be enforced, and it will also be interesting to see what will happen with the cable TV, like the Playboy channel, things in that respect.
Rick, thank you very much.
Rick, thanks. 9 North Carolina Ku Klux Klan members have been indicted on rights violation charges. FBI Special Agent Robert Pence says the charges stem from a series of cross burnings and shooting incidents in 1982 and 1983. The indictments come after a 2-year FBI and grand jury probe of racial violence in Alexander and Iredell counties. Charges against a truck driver involved in a traffic accident that killed 3 Durham church members have been dropped tonight. A judge in Pennsylvania says trucker Raymond Smits of Canada was not criminally liable for the August collision near the Pennsylvania-New York border. Smits faced 3 counts of homicide by vehicle and involuntary manslaughter. Police say Smits' tractor-trailer and the old-fashioned Tabernacle Baptist Church bus carrying 11 people collided on a rain-slickened road. 3 people died in that accident.
An attempt to unionize the Wilson Firestone Tire and Rubber Company plant failed tonight. Workers at that plant said no to the United Rubber Workers Union. The workers in Wilson are the only Firestone plant employees in the United States not represented by a union. More than 70% of the voters were against unionization. Action News File will continue in just a moment.
Which cereal has more vitamin nutrition than any other? Kellogg's Product 19 cereal, but you'd never guess.
Oh.
Because Product 19 vitamins are flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, and taste so good. Product 19 goodness comes from corn, oats, wheat, and rice.
Delicious.
Kellogg's Product 19.
Flaky.
Bumpy.
Crispy. Crunchy.
Mmm. Tasty vitamins.
What are you talking about?
Daddy!
Please, stop. Nothing is going to ruin this wedding. So if it takes all night, I personally will drive each of you home in my car. My Subaru.
Drive a Subaru with on-demand four-wheel drive and don't let the weather spoil a good time.
See the Subarus at the following locations.
Forecasters, meteorologists, and scientists across the country track Hurricane Gloria at this hour, potentially the most destructive hurricane since Hazel in 1954.
Joining us now from Miami, Florida is Dr. Neil Frank, Director of the National Hurricane Center. And Dr. Frank, thank you for joining us. We shudder in North Carolina to think that this hurricane would be as powerful as Hazel. Is that a fair comparison right now?
Well, there's no question about it. The winds in this storm right now are comparable to what Hazel was in 1954, and it's a very serious hurricane, and coastal residents need to pay very close attention to this one.
Dr. Frank, earlier today, the watch area basically covered just a portion of the North Carolina coast. Later, it was extended to cover the entire North Carolina coast, part of the South Carolina coast, and a part of Virginia as well. Can you tell us, basically, is there any area that appears to be more vulnerable than another than being hit?
Yeah, you know, let me talk a little bit about that. We put the watch up on the Outer Banks because we know it takes a long time to get those folks back to the safety of the inland area because many of them have to come out on ferries. Now, the storm, we anticipate the hurricane is going to gradually recurve to the north and accelerate in its forward speed as it moves on up into the northeastern part of the country. But the dilemma tonight is when is that turn going to take place? And as long as it's being delayed, then the threat becomes very serious in the Carolinas, and that's why we have extended our watch there.
Dr. Frank, since Hurricane Hazel, and I don't have to tell you, the technology as far as warning people has increased, and one of the nice things, if there is one about a hurricane, is it moves pretty slowly. How do you feel about the warning system now as we try to protect the people along the seaboard?
Well, listen, we observe hurricanes very well through the eyes of the weather satellite, the NOAA satellite, the aircraft, and the coastal radars. The dilemma we have is that we don't forecast as accurately as we need to forecast, and so we still got a forecast problem tonight.
Dr. Frank, I have another question for you. Could you tell us in brief, as I understand, Gloria is a Category 4 hurricane. Can you tell us in brief exactly what that system means?
Well, of course, you can talk about Hazel in 1954, and that's what a Category 4 is. And if this storm moves up the coastline and doesn't lose strength, then you've got that kind of potential.
Dr. Frank, thank you very much for being with us tonight from the National Hurricane Center in Miami.
Thank you, Doctor. We have an update tonight to a touching story we told you about several months ago, the story of a toddler in desperate need of a liver transplant. Last month, little Kristen Green of Anger left for Dallas in hopes of getting that liver transplant. And today, 23-month-old Kristen Green returned home, this time with a new liver. A crowd met Kristen and her folks at the airport to welcome the little girl home. Ivy Green, Kristen's mother, says she's beside herself. Her daughter is finally home.
We're so overjoyed, I don't even know what to say. We didn't ever think we'd get this far.
It isn't over yet, however. Kristen will be on medication for the rest of her life. She will return to Dallas in 3 weeks for another checkup. Our medical beat reporter Denise Boyer will have more on the toddler's homecoming tonight at 11 o'clock.
Coping with child support. Coming up, we'll tell you how some mothers are dealing with delinquent payments.
Always a power in women's cross country. NC State prepares for another run at area supremacy.
And Bob comes back with the latest again on Hurricane Gloria in just a moment.
These wall studs are 24 inches apart, close enough to comply with federal construction standards for manufactured homes, but not close enough for us. We're Champion Home Builders Company, and we space our exterior wall studs and floor joists 16 inches apart. In a 1,500 square foot home, that makes a solid difference. Homes by Champion, built better from the inside out. Available to qualified buyers for only 5% down through October 31st.
This 13-inch color television is state-of-the-art technology. Panasonic's CompuFocus video system ensures the brightest, sharpest picture possible. Panasonic's unique color pilot automatically corrects the color as you change channels. And right now, this 13-inch Panasonic is on sale at Rose's. Panasonic products are slightly ahead of their time, and Rose's prices are way behind our time. Rose's, the best place for the best price. RMSS sale through Saturday.
We are the baddest bugs in town. We love to sneak around. We love to come into your house and drive you crazy. We are the baddest bugs in town.
No matter how bad the termites, we'll make your problems go away, because nobody's better at stopping termites scientifically than Terminix, and we guarantee it.
1 year, $25,000 limit, new damage repair guarantee. See Terminix for details.
Well, it's one of those times of watching and waiting, and
Yes,
of course the Weather Center is right on this. Let's go right to Bob.
Okay, Charlie, let's review again the statistics for folks who are keeping the tracking maps, and then we'll get into some specifics for you. Just to remind you and to follow up what Dr. Frank just said, it is a very, very dangerous storm. Okay, here we go with Hurricane Gloria. And here are the late coordinates now, just a few moments ago. 27.5 north, 73.5 west. Here they are, 25, 73. 550 miles southeast of Hatteras. Hatteras is here. Here's the storm here. It is still moving in a northwesterly direction. This poses problems for the North Carolina coast. Winds are still 150 miles an hour. The internal pressure at the eye now has started to rise slightly at 2764. But because of this continued northwestern movement, the Hurricane Center did enlarge the hurricane watch area from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, which is just slightly below Charleston, all the way up to Cape Henry, Virginia. And Cape Henry is right there at Norfolk, or the entrance into Chesapeake Bay. So this entire area is under a watch. Now, we're saying tonight that if you have property or if you have boats, things that you really are concerned of the coast, go tonight. Don't wait till tomorrow morning. Some of the things you could do, if you have small boats in the area, load them up on a trailer, move them inland, or bring them back home. If you have big boats, big sailboats, you need to lengthen the mooring lines because of the tremendous fall and rise in the tides. The storm surges, so you'll have to allow for higher tides in a situation like this. You'll want to board up anything that's even pretends to look like a window or a door, board it up. anything that's outdoors like trash cans or anything like that, move them indoors because they become very deadly missiles in a situation as this. This is a very, very dangerous storm. Do we have a neat satellite photo for you? I'll tell you, we've been looking at this thing. Here we go with a time lapse, and watch what happens. Now, this started last night. We've been taking the pictures ever since. And watch how it is like the field judges at a football game called encroaching onto North Carolina. Look at it now. It's just ever so slowly moving up. And this is one of the reasons now that the Hurricane Center extended the watch area as this storm starts to move closer and closer to us now. It's a very fantastic picture, really. Here's the eye of the storm. Circulation is tremendous. Clouds now are starting to move into North Carolina. We've got another situation back here with a frontal system coming in, so the combination of the two ought to really give us some rain tomorrow night and really should break the back of that drought. One of the things that we've been watching now was the jet stream for today. And here it comes. Okay, because it is starting to move northward now towards our west, and this high pressure area off the coast is very, very strong. The winds around that high, the clockwise flow, very strong. And so basically what it's doing is just pushing this whole circulation right on towards the coast. And as it gets closer to us, of course, the threat gets even more severe. We're hoping now that sometime late tonight or tomorrow morning, the storm will turn a little more towards the north and probably will not come inland as far as we're concerned like Hazel did, which came right over the top of Raleigh, as I recall, and did a tremendous amount of damage. Well, let's get back into some local statistics. We almost forgot about some of the things around here. We had a high today of 68 and a low of 62 this morning. Very narrow spread. 66 degrees right now. Humidity at 61%. Pressure's falling. We have northeasterly winds at 8. Look at our recreational lake levels. Quick look at temperatures around the state right now. Just about clouds everywhere. Look how warm Wilmington is. 79 degrees. We're at 66. 67 back at Asheville. It's forecast time for the Triangle area and elsewhere in our viewing area. We're looking for variable amounts of cloudiness throughout the state tonight, and especially in this area. We're going from 66 down to 64. Very narrow spread for the next couple of hours, and overnight tonight, 61 degrees, variable amounts of cloudiness. Tomorrow, temperatures not moving up quite rapidly. Rapidly enough, 61 to 70. Again, variable amounts of cloudiness. And then we really should see late tomorrow the showers, the thunderstorms starting to develop as these two systems converge on us. We're looking for a high of 76 degrees. Some of the rain could be quite heavy in eastern North Carolina. Friday is a very, very minute, strong, minuscule. We don't know what's going to happen Friday. We think the showers and thunderstorms will linger a little while, but should stop later on in the afternoon. We'll have a better handle on that. Right now, the weekend for the Malcolm Blue Festival down at Aberdeen, you know, they have that big arts and crafts festival down there, is going to be just beautiful. I think we'll have a good time for the weekend. It's artist time, and a rainy picture from Curtis Horn from Fayetteville. And we will get some rain tomorrow night, Charlie. Okay, we'll, everybody in the Weather Center is all geared up, and we're ready to go tonight, tomorrow night. We'll be right here.
We'll be with you. Thank you very much, Bob. North Carolina motorists will have to wear seatbelts beginning next week. The state law requires the use of seatbelts beginning the 1st of October.
But some seatbelt advocates don't feel enough people know why the seatbelt can make a difference in an accident. Joe Oliver reports there may be one way to convince them without having a car accident.
The North Carolina Highway Safety Research Center says 1,000 traffic deaths occur each year in the state, and 2 out of 3 of those victims would have lived if they had worn a seatbelt. When Senator Robert Warren made his push for a law requiring the use of seatbelts, he used a crash simulator to get support. But some feel the seatbelt legislation may not explain why seatbelts are important.
Any effectiveness of a law depends on voluntary compliance. People have to believe that the law is what they need to do in order for people to do it. This is why we're trying to convince people it'll save their lives.
Betty Holler says the convincer does just that. The crash simulator will make a debut appearance at the State Fair in Raleigh, then travel around North Carolina to give free rides to seatbelt skeptics. Recreating a car crash at 10 miles an hour, it can give the rider quite a jolt.
It will convince you that most wrecks happen at 30 miles an hour. And if you get a jolt 3 times harder than this, you need a seatbelt on.
For those people who already wear a seatbelt, the convincer reminds them why they wear a belt in the first place. Let her go. In Raleigh, Joe Oliver, Action News 5.
Your older relatives have probably told you the dollar can't buy as much as it used to.
Coming up next on the Money Desk, you'll find out why right now, more than ever, what they told you is true. Tina Selden is next.
This new Nissan is being delivered to the Watson estate. Can you tell who ordered it? Here are some clues. It's America's best-selling import. Room for 5. Front-wheel drive. Surprising performance. It's the Nissan Sentra. So affordable, anyone could have done it. Even the butler. Who solved the mystery of desirable, inexpensive transportation? The name is Nissan.
It's coming from us, North Carolina's Class FM.
Getaway shopping spree.
101 WRAL. Your ticket to America's most glamorous shopping centers. And cash.
Thousands.
To spend while you're there. Your ticket is right there. 4 of them.
It's coming in the mail.
Grab it.
Use it.
Win it all. Weekday mornings at 7:15 with famous Bob Inskeep.
Getaway shopping spree.
Tune in and cash in.
The state Supreme Court ruled today that R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company owes more than $4 million in property taxes. The court says Reynolds owes taxes on tobacco to Durham County and the city of Durham. Lawyers for the Reynolds Company argue that the tobacco is exempt from local taxes because it was stored in U.S. Customs warehouses. But the court decided that the Golden Leaf is subject to local taxes because it's headed for domestic markets instead of foreign sales. Officials in Durham County say the revenue will be spent on public schools. Inflation could hit a 25-year low this year if present trends continue. Consumer prices rose just 0.2% last month for the 4th month in a row. Now that puts inflation at just 3.3% for the year.
One reason inflation is so low is the strong U.S. dollar. A strong dollar buys more goods, but it makes selling difficult. That's why industries that depend on sales to foreign countries, they like to see a weaker dollar so other countries can afford our goods. More on the value of the dollar and what it means to our consumers on the Money Desk now with Tina Selden.
Well, this topic certainly can be confusing, but the value of the dollar has stabilized. Monday, however, it dropped 5% in Western Europe, the largest one-day drop in 12 years. Now, that happened after the U.S. and other industrialized nations agreed that a weaker dollar would help the trade imbalance and American industry. Foreign goods would cost more, so U.S. goods would be more competitive. For consumer, though, a weaker dollar means higher prices.
Our farmers are in trouble. Costs are up, prices for their products are down, and many are going under. The value of the U.S. dollar affects their problems. If the dollar wasn't so strong, farmers could sell more overseas.
Exports of agricultural products have fallen about 24% since 1980, and much of that is due to the rise in the U.S. dollar. So if the U.S. dollar falls, we should see our farmers being able to export more products abroad.
Another industry in trouble is textiles. The strong dollar is one reason American textiles cost more than imported textiles. A weaker dollar would put this and other U.S. industries in a more competitive position.
And also it would tend to make imports of foreign products like foreign cars or foreign clothing products more expensive, so that American consumers would have a tendency to turn to domestic producers of clothing, and obviously that would help, for example, in this state, the textile industry.
Foreign-made products are everywhere, not just on car lots and in camera shops. Take, for example, shoes. Over 70% of the shoes bought in the U.S. are made overseas. Now, if the dollar weakens, $5 shoes like these made in Taiwan will cost more.
So the bottom line is that a weakening dollar will tend to hit consumers in the pocketbook by making the prices of many products, from cars to TV sets, to the clothing that we wear relatively more expensive.
186.
The strong dollar has kept inflation down. In fact, this year we're seeing the lowest inflation rate since 1967. So while the strong U.S. dollar doesn't work for industry, it works for the consumer. And if economists who agree with Dr. Michael Walden are correct, we'll continue to see low inflation, a strong dollar, and unfortunately problems for many U.S. manufacturers.
Well, I don't see a tremendous weakening in the U.S. dollar. In fact, as long as U.S. inflation remains relatively low, I think our dollar's value will stay basically where it is.
Since the folks in Washington don't want to see inflation go up, Dr. Walden believes little will be done to weaken the dollar. But if world markets flood the economy with too many U.S. dollars, then we will see a much weaker dollar followed by much higher inflation. U.S. automakers aren't letting the competition get them down. From September 12th through September 20th, Americans bought 290,000 U.S.-made cars. That's over 32,000 cars a day, more than at any time in automotive history. End of the model year bargains and low interest rates get credit for the record-breaking sales. Home sales are way up, too. August was the best month in nearly 6 years for sales of existing single-family homes. Almost 3.5 million people bought one last month. And eating out can put you in debt, especially if you choose one of the more exclusive restaurants across the country. For example, a gourmet restaurant in Mill Valley, California has a pizza for $4 with salmon, caviar, and sour cream for only $100. And an Italian restaurant in Dallas offers one American dish, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for $12.95. Charlie, they're tired of people coming in who don't want to eat Italian, so they say, eat American and pay for it.
I guess there are a lot of people in Dallas who could afford to pay $12 for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but
I think you're right.
I don't think that would go around here.
I don't think I'd pay it.
Coming up, we'll be talking about a teenager looking for parents. She's bright and has high hopes for the future.
I thought about being an artist, but I thought about being a lawyer, too.
We'll meet Lee tonight on Wednesday's Child.
Also ahead, what North Carolina is doing to help single parents collect child support. We'll be back in a moment.
Now, 7.7% financing, our lowest factory-sponsored rate ever, is available during the Ford Factory Authorized Clearance Sale. 7.7% on every new Ford car in stock, or big cash rebates for cash buyers. 7.7% on select Ford trucks, too, or up to $1,000 cash back on top of a great clearance deal. Now through October 2nd, during the Factory Authorized Clearance Sale. Hurry, see your local Carolina Ford dealer before time runs out.
In this ordinary grocery cart comes an extraordinary source of nutrition. 4 ounces gives you 76% of the protein you need daily, 100% of vitamin B12, 51% of zinc, 35% of niacin, 19% of iron. What is this remarkable source of nutrition? WD brand U.S. choice beef. Only at the place with 10,000 low prices, Winn-Dixie, the beef people.
It starts out, of course, as one missed payment, but soon delinquent child support payments add up.
For custodial parents and children, not getting the money they're owed can mean going without basic necessities, food, clothing, and a home. Susan Brozick is here to tell us what's being done to solve the problem and make parents pay up.
Adele, judges and legislators agree there's a problem, but they don't always agree on how to solve it. Do we need stricter penalties, tougher laws, or do we need tougher enforcement of the laws we have? Diane Cleaver works to help support her 2 children. She says she has to support them because her ex-husband won't.
What people don't realize is when you divorce, you only divorce your wife. Those children are yours. You keep your children up.
Diane doesn't want a handout. She doesn't want welfare. But she does want her ex-husband to pay the child support he owes. She thinks it's his responsibility, not the taxpayers.
This tax money that we're paying in, we're keeping up everybody's young that don't want them. So if you don't want your kids, just walk out and your next door neighbor will keep them up. I don't think that's fair.
Everybody has some concerns about.
This child support task force doesn't think it's fair either. The task force is working to bring the state into compliance with a federal law, a law that automatically takes money out of a parent's paycheck when the parent falls 30 days behind in child support payments.
We are not in North Carolina anywhere near complying with that at this time. We don't have anything like that in place.
The problem of delinquent child support payments has become so severe that in some counties, district courts are declaring week-long crackdowns on parents who refuse to pay.
Too often, the excuses for not paying are just entirely frivolous and without legal merit at all.
All this week, Judge David Labar is hearing from parents delinquent in their payments. He says some have valid reasons, others only excuses.
I had to pay the furniture bill, I had to pay a car bill, I had to pay my landlord, I'm not getting visitation with my child, or I just simply don't want to pay.
Diane Cleaver has been trying for 2 years to collect back payments. She's frustrated, she's angry, and she feels her children deserve better than what they're getting.
They have to know that they got one parent that's sticking beside them, and I want them, and I just refuse to give them up, so we're going to keep struggling, and with the help of the Lord and friends, that's how we're making it.
Diane Cleaver's husband owes her over $1,800 in child support payments, and that's even small compared to some of the cases now in court.
Susan, when there's a crackdown, something like this, do more parents come forward and voluntarily pay up?
Adele, in most cases they do. In fact, the chief judge told me today that some parents even pay the same day. One parent who owed thousands of dollars was able to come up with that money in a few hours.
Okay. Susan, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go down to the CBS anchor desk in New York for a look at what's ahead on the CBS Evening News.
On tonight's broadcast, potentially the strongest Atlantic hurricane on record may hit the eastern seaboard within the next 2 days. Part 2 of our special series looks at how malpractice insurance has affected medicine in the 1980s, and some new credit cards that may be smarter than you are. Details soon on the CBS Evening News, so stay with us.
With Hurricane Gloria threatening the East Coast and North Carolina tonight, how are the emergency management teams preparing for a landfall if or when it should come? We will be live at Emergency Preparation Headquarters at 11 o'clock to show you. We'll also have live updates from the North Carolina coastline. And we'll show you more of today's homecoming celebration for Kristen Green.
Coming up next this Wednesday, of course, Tom Suter's along with this week's High School Fabulous 15.
And while Phil Niekro falls short of 300 as the Yankees fall further behind. Stay with us.
It seems like yesterday that I first told you about butter-made bread. A better loaf of bread made only of premium ingredients, including real butter. So you get butter through and through. Butter in every bite. Good bread, Mom. People tried it, and now Buttermade is one of the most popular breads in town. Good bread, Mom. As you can guess, it's been imitated. But if you want to hear it at your house... Good bread, Mom. Get the original Butter in Every Bite Buttermade. It's baked by the Flowers family.
Nissan dealers have 1986 trucks at 84 prices, and there's more.
Always.
The last chance sell-off. To set an all-time sales record, Nissan dealers want to move every truck by September 30, end of their year. Sports, standards, 4xs, king cabs. Prices start at just $59.99, plus 8.8% financing can save up to $13.50.
So until September 30th.
Truck buying doesn't get any better than this.
Don't miss out.
Go for it at your North Carolina Nissan dealers.
Thanks to government deregulation, banks can now pay whatever they please on CDs. Now that can be good news or bad news, depending on your banker. At First Federal, it's good news. We're paying special bonus rates on CDs because we're throwing out the old rules and regulations. What's your bank doing?
Call First Federal for the hottest new CD rates in town.
There's fun in the afternoon with the hilarious guys and gals from What's Happening.
It's not the bikini I'm looking at. It's the hot dog standing in the back.
They're always into something.
I hope you know what you're doing. I'll figure it out.
And you're always in for big laughter.
Bring some of that hot air over here. It'll help me dry my nails.
Don't miss the great family comedy of What's Happening. Weekdays at 4 on WRAL-TV 5. The new CBS place to be.
Tom's always excited on Wednesday. Here the past couple of
I'm always excited every day.
Oh, well, that's true. But more so on Wednesday, Thursday, but no. I'm just
got to watch a great baseball game this afternoon. Greg Fishel came back. I'll give you a hint about it because he's not happy. So I will show you that in just a minute. But it is Wednesday, and we're ready for this week's Fabulous 15, our top 15 high school football teams in the viewing area. Gotta have the drum roll, and for that, our good friend upstairs, Drew McCarthy. Nobody does the drums like Drew, I'll tell you. Here we go. Still number 1, Fayetteville's Douglas Byrd. Number 2, Whiteville. Number 3, Wallace Rose Hill. Number 4, North and Durham. 5, Clinton. Number 6, Smithfield Selma. Then it's Southeast Halifax. Number 8, Terry Sanford of Fayetteville. 9, Rocky Mount. Number 10, Fuquay Varina. The 11th spot, Fayetteville 71st. Number 12, the Fayetteville Pine Forest. Then it's Tarboro, Raleigh, Millbrook. Rounding out the top 15 for my cousin Buck Suter in Ahoskie, his hometown team, Ahoskie. And hope your team makes it next week. Adele says her team did not make it this week. Maybe next week, Adele. Well, a not-so-happy group this week is Wake Forest. Now, the Deacons feel they did everything possible except win the game against State. And Coach Al Groh, who admitted he felt he could have done a better job, says it left a bad taste.
Look at the amount of yardage that the opponent had to drive. Had to drive a total of 36 yards for 17 points. That says a lot for our defense, but it also says that obviously then there's some things that we need to fine-tune about our overall operation if we're going to win games.
And the Deacons take on Appalachian State this Saturday afternoon. We'll go to baseball this afternoon. Nail-biter at the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Stomach-turner for the Mets. Picking up the 9th inning, 4-4 Mets and Cubs. Runners first and third. Jesse Orozco is going to make the pitch to Chris Spire. The line shot, base hit left field. Davey Lopes is going to come in and score. The Cubs beat the Mets 5-4. A big nail in the Met coffin, maybe. The Cardinal magic number now 8 as the Mets fall 3.5 back. And the Cardinals continue to win, and the Mets can't do a thing about that. Want to show you something poor from last night. Mike Jorgensen, the fly ball. Now watch the Pirates. R.J. Reynolds drift back, tries the lackadaisical one-hand catch. He drops it. My Little League coach always said 2 hands are better than 1, R.J., big guy. This helps St. Louis to beat the Bucks by a 5-4 score. The National League West, the Dodgers win. Mike Marshall, the RBI 7-2 win over Houston. Their lead 6 over Cincinnati. All right, we'll go to the American League, and man, the news gets worse for the Yankees. Not only did Billy Martin break his arm in that barroom fight with pitcher Ed Whitson, he also cracked some ribs. And last night, Phil Niekro going for number 300. He is rocked, though. Look at this shot. To dead center by John Grubb's going to be a 3-run homer. The Tigers clobber New York 9-1. George Steinbrenner probably wants to crack some heads. The Yankees fall 7 back. Now, in the West, the old guys did in California. Tom Seaver wins number 302. Carlton Fisk did it with the bat. 36th home run of the season. Boom. Chicago 8, California 1. But the Royals lost to Seattle. The Angels cling to a half-game lead. I'll tell you, the Mariners have been whipping up on the Royals lately. All right, a great fall sport, cross country, and one of the top teams around, not just here, but anywhere, the North Carolina State women. They won national titles in 79 and 80 and came close the last 2 seasons. And again, the Pac women appear ready for another shot at the championship. Bob Holliday has more.
Seems like every fall, one of NC State's top runners gets hurt, and still the Wolfpack wins. This fall, Connie Jo Robertson and Lynn Strauss have both been hampered by injuries. But in last week's Kentucky Invitational cross-country meet, State went 1, 2, 3.
Well, we've been fortunate with the recruiting. Each year we seem to come up with one of the outstanding high school athletes in the nation. And this year, again, we have a young lady named Susie Tuffy that seems to be one of the better athletes.
Adding new runners makes the veterans work harder, but not every established runner welcomes a challenge for her position.
We talk about it in great length, to be honest with you. I sit down with the young ladies and explain to them that the program's going to continue at the level that we have to have new people, and they understand that. So they're eager to have young women come in the program that are top caliber.
We always realize that in order to have a better team, he's going to have to recruit, better people, and we just all know that.
Riley's just a really good coach, and he helps us with that. If some freshman comes along, he says, don't worry about it if you're not there. You'll get there, and I don't know. All the recruits we recruit are really nice, so it's not that hard. Like if you didn't like somebody and they came along and beat you, then it's a different story.
Last year, Janet Smith, as a freshman, won the ACC individual title. This year, freshman Susie Tuffy could challenge. State seems to have an unending supply of runners who can lead the pack. Bob Holliday, Action Sports 5.
They didn't even look tired, did they? All right, we'll go to racing of another kind, where some of NASCAR's top drivers at the Charlotte Motor Speedway today practicing for the October 6th Miller 500. Now, turning in the top practice speed today, Cale Yarborough with the speed of 165.169 miles per hour. Bill Elliott, by the way, was not there today. Cale, for that speed, gets $10,000. Now, Elliott's probably wondering where in the world his points lead went. Elliott's 206-point lead down to just 23 over Darrell Waltrip. And Wild Bill from Dawsonville says you got to think racing now
changes things a lot. You got to put different priorities on different things. You know, first my racing comes first, then I'll worry about every other thing as it comes along.
I'll tell you, this points race getting very crucial. You know, Elliott has dominated, but North Wilkesboro this week, a Darrell Waltrip track. It wouldn't surprise me if Darrell has the points lead going to Charlotte, which of course Bill Elliott should dominate.
Wow. Okay, thanks, Tom. Well, she has the charisma and looks to be a fashion model.
Coming up on Wednesday's Child, you'll meet a young lady whose dreams go much further than that. That story and more when we come back in a minute.
If you have your eye on fashion, look no further. It's a celebration of sweatering at Bell, with sweaters from Chouse. Expect the unexpected when you wear these sweaters. Brilliant colors, rich boucle texture that warms any moment. And also count on Chouse to size up the fashion scene with flattering sizes for petites. Chouse and Bell. It's something to celebrate.
New pie in minutes, Mrs. Smith's pie in minutes, in just 10 minutes.
You've got it made.
Fast in the oven, faster yet in the microwave.
In just 10 minutes, you've got it made.
There's only one pie with this much real fruit and a crust this tender and flaky in its own microwave pan.
New pie in minutes, Mrs. Smith's pie in minutes, in just 10 minutes, you've got it made.
Yeah.
Tonight on PM Magazine, we'll visit with Tom Selleck and find out why he's taking his show, Magnum P.I., on the road to London.
Plus, we're spending this entire week in the beautiful North Carolina mountains, and we're going to show you some great places to visit, like the Swinging Bridge here on Grandfather Mountain.
Also, we'll highlight some unique country inns. It all comes up tonight on PM Magazine. Hi, I'm Susan Darlene.
And I'm Tom McNamara. Be sure to join us tonight for PM Magazine, coming up at 7:30, all right here on WRAL-TV 5.
Action News 5 continues after this WRAL-TV editorial.
You would think that during this day and time, in this age of information and enlightenment, that most of us would finally learn how to avoid some of the destructive ills of our society. I guess most of us do. Most of us have looked, listened, and learned enough about drug abuse that we don't allow ourselves to fall victim to the physical and mental dependency of illegal drugs. But you would think that with the highly publicized real-life stories of the horrors of drug use and addiction, that just about everybody would know that drug abuse is a real bad scene that leads nowhere fast. Well, maybe some of us are just too careless, indifferent, or just too downright stupid to learn. If we sound angry or disgusted about this, it's because we are. Soon to be released is a study, a Wake County study about drug abuse that should get your attention, because it will reveal that the use of cocaine among teenagers in Wake County is on the increase, the way it seems to be increasing all across the state and the country. What's wrong? Have some parents become so permissive that they give their teenagers more money and freedom than they can constructively use? Have some parents failed to provide their teenagers with a system of values, a sense of what's right and what's wrong, or the coping skills that will allow them to make intelligent decisions regardless of some detrimental peer group influences or a temptation to use drugs? Maybe it's time all of us got a little upset and even angry about this. Because, to paraphrase an often heard expression, a teenager is a terrible thing to waste.
This has been a WRAL-TV editorial. Printed copies are available and viewer comment is welcome. Now for a wrap-up on the weather, here's Bob.
Charlie, we want to echo what Dr. Neil Frank said live on our station this evening, that Hurricane Gloria is an extremely dangerous storm When you talk about a storm Category 4, you're talking about the potential of flooding 6 miles inland, roofs blown off, mobile homes completely destroyed, houses tumbling, the underpinnings going underneath, and all of this falling down. And because the storm is continuing in a northwesterly direction, and nobody knows yet where it's going to reach landfall, the Hurricane Center issued the watch from south of Charleston, which is Edisto Beach, all the way up to Cape Henry, Virginia. So this entire area is under a watch, and that means that conditions are favorable sometime over the next 12, 24, 36 hours for the storm to reach somewhere on this area landfall. So we hope it's not serious. We hope it turns away. Okay, quickly, triangle, variable cloudiness, temperatures in the 60s. Overnight tonight, 61, still clouds. Tomorrow morning, clouds again, temperatures slow to warm up, and during the day, we're looking for a high of 76. Showers and thunderstorms will develop, and it should be out sometime. The activity should be out of here sometime on Friday, maybe clearing late in the day. We hope so. Our weekend looks good. Somebody wanted to know about the weekend in the mountains. It looks dry, partly cloudy, looks very nice. We'll check it out again throughout the evening. Tommy?
You know, I'll never forget Hazel. I was looking out my window, and all of a sudden this tree, I was about 6 years old, just went poof. And I ran for my mother. It was scary. Coming up at 11, we'll check those pennant races and a look at the veteran Bobby Allison, who is beginning to take on the look of a winner again. Bobby's had a hard time this season.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Well, she's smart, pretty, and she wants to be a lawyer when she grows up. She has everything going for her, except for one thing. She needs a family to call her own. Her name is Lee. We met her on a Wednesday's Child segment in June. Now, since that time, several people have expressed interest in Lee. But the Guilford County Social Services Office would like a wider range of choices to place Lee in a setting perfectly suited for her abilities and her challenges. For that reason, we're airing the Wednesday's Child segment that we showed you in June when Lee and I went to the Daniel Boone Village in Hillsboro. You never know what kind of treasures you'll find in an antique store. That's what 15-year-old Lee and I soon find out.
Here's what you need, Lee. It's too real. My camera.
Well, if you don't like furry creatures in their original form, how about a vintage fur coat?
What kind is it? What if I start breaking off?
But Lee and I find a clothing rack suits our taste a bit better, and Lee finds another bit of fur better to her liking.
How do you do it? I don't know how to do it. There you go. Something like this.
How about hats? From chapeaus to nouveau, art, that is. And art is something Lee is familiar with. She loves to draw, but her ambitions are in another direction.
I want to be a lawyer. I thought about being an artist, but I thought about being a lawyer, too.
Lawyer or artist, Lee has what it takes to do both with the right help and a loving family. In school, she's doing above-average work and has great potential. Agency workers feel Lee would do best in a single or two-parent home with no brothers or sisters. If you'd like to find out more about Lee, call Shirley Linton with Guilford County Social Services. Her number is 373-3834. Wednesday's child is Lee.
She has a lot of potential.
She really does. I hate to call her a child because she's 15 and very mature. Very sweet girl.
Stay tuned now for world and national news up next on CBS. I'm Charlie Gaddy. For all of us here on Action News 5, thank you so much for watching, and good night.
Good evening. This is the CBS